This episode of the Rogue Deck Builder is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 source for games and gaming accessories, and by GatheringMagic.com, the #1 source for Magic the Gathering news and articles. Hi there, it's Kevin with Gathering Magic and Roguedeckbuilder.com here with this week's episode of the Rogue Deck Builder. This was a submission by Rapples101 for a Defender deck. And he challenged me to actually play it and see how well it goes. I'm going to run my own list, though, but it's a great idea. So his idea is just running a bunch of Defenders to generate some mana, and then kill conditions being Mistcutter Hydra, Colossus of Akros, and Mind Grind. And he's got some other cards in here, like the Bow of Nylea. I just don't see it fitting in this deck. Yes, it can hit creatures with flying. It's good against, like, the best card that this is good against is Chandra's Phoenix. But other than that, I really don't see a point to putting Bow of Nylea in this deck. So I'm not going to run that. But other cards that it runs, let's just go. The list he has is Axebane Guardian. That's your mana generating Defender. And then Colossus Akros. That's your 20/20 indestructible eventually guy. Your Doorkeeper. He can mill. And the Guardians of Meletis. 0/6 for 3. Mistcutter Hydra, which is a... Let's see, it's a haste, protection from blue, so it's another kill condition. You can get huge with this, and a lot of times Pro Blue can get through. And then Murmuring Phantasm, which is just a 0/5 defender for 2, and then Sylvan Caryatids, which is 0/3 defender hexproof. So that's his defender, 28 creatures, that seems a lot to me. And then the sideboard, I think there's a few better things in the sideboard, since this is this is mostly a black-green deck, a black-green-blue deck. So I don't agree with the mana source here. You definitely do need some black mana sources in here, even though he does have ways through Sylvan Caryatid, Mana Bloom, and Axebane Guardians. But if those die, if your creatures die, which is very, very plausible in Standard through Supreme Verdicts and such, then you have no way to cast the Mind Grind, which is actually going to be your best card against decks like Esper. Alright, so here's a list that I've come up with. I think the deck does have multiple win conditions through damage or milling, but I don't think that that's necessarily an advantage. I think that we should stick to one or the other, so I'm going with the Doorkeeper and Mind Grind strategy, but I don't think we need as many Mind Grinds as was being used. And instead, I'm going to bring in cards like Ashiok and Jace Memory Adept as threats that have to be answered. And then also... The defenders that I'm going to use, I like the Axebane Guardians, but Gatekeeper Vine in a 3-color deck is very good. It gets you a 0/2 on the board, finds that third color that you usually need through the black, and also, yeah, it just puts a 0/2 that you can chump block with. It helps your Doorkeepers, it helps your Axebane Guardians, and whatnot. And I thought I'd include Gyre Sage because the Sage can actually get quite big in this deck. It'll get evolved at least to a 3/4. I'm trying it out because I wanted 25-ish creatures. I didn't really like the other walls. I didn't like the 0/6 wall for sure. I think that the Murmuring Phantasm is 0/5 with the hover barriers at 0/6 is probably a better route to go. And then Sage, that gives it another way to evolve up to at least a 5/6 or a 4/5, 5/6. Yeah, you can get up to a 5/6 with the hover barrier. So I love this mnemonic wall, as it can get an instant or sorcery back from my graveyard. So it's kind of like my 3rd and 4th Mind Grind. And then we have Plasm Captures because I thought, why not? We can go a huge Plasm Capture into a huge Mind Grind. Or Plasm Capture into the Colossus of Akros. So I am using a Colossus of Akros, but I'm not using Mistcutter Hydra. Maybe I'll bring it main board as a one-of. In fact, maybe I will. Maybe I'll take a Sage out. Maybe I don't want to take a Sage. I think that maybe a land is okay just to completely get rid of. We'll go to 22 and see how 22 lands does, because the Gate Creeper Vines do allow us to get quite a few lands. I'm thinking that a Temple to Sea is too much on the Scry. We're going to go 6 Scry because we are using so many Guild Gates as well. So we're going to try 22 lands. And yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, the Colossus of Akros is just one of, and Mistcutter is just one of. And so what we really just need to hit into is 3 mana. As far as the control package that I'm using, we are using just 2 Abrupt Decays, a Putrefy, and 2 Far and Aways. And that might not be enough, but we definitely have access to more in our sideboard through Putrefys and Abrupt Decays. And maybe I'll even put in Cyclonic Rifts, Syncopates, those type of things. And maybe I'll even want to put another answer in the sideboard. I don't know. I've got Bramble Crush in the sideboard for the Planeswalkers. We've got Essence Scatters for the creature-based decks, of course, and Rifts is just an overall pretty good card in this metagame. Primeval Bounties against the red decks and black decks, a lot of times they can't beat it. I am running now 26 creatures main board, so Primeval Bounty is just a blowout against certain decks. If they like, mono black has a very hard time with Primeval Bounty. You start to get a bunch of life and a bunch of creatures they can't deal with. So I think the last card that we should, maybe another Putrefy could come in, or maybe another Far and Away. And I think I'm going to go for one more Far and Away in the sideboard. I really like this card a lot, as there is plenty of hexproof decks running around and whatnot. So I'm testing out Ashiok, seeing how Ashiok is in this deck. If nothing, she's 3 mil per turn, which I think is decently powerful. And again, it's something they have to deal with. So let's try this out. I'm not expecting this to be like the best deck ever. Well, again, it was a nice little challenge. It's these type of decks kind of get your brain going. It forces you to think outside the box, build outside your comfort zone, kind of, and you start to see interactions, and you never know. Sometimes these lead to very good ideas. I think my Mortals of the Forge deck started out with a terrible idea, and eventually it turned into something special. And I need to update the deck list to Mortals of the Forge, which eventually I will do. I've got a lot of people requesting that I do so, but I'm waiting for till Born of the Gods. I'm hoping for another 2-drop creature that is decent. I'm actually hoping for a Faithless Looting type card in red, and then we can completely cut green out of the equation and just go into a black-red Immortals of the Forge type deck. So hopefully that does come to fruition, and we do get those missing pieces, and then I can start building on the Immortal Forge again. But that's going to be, again, till February for Born of the Gods. So sit tight if all of you want to see more and more of the Forge in action. I might do some live matches, which I still played at my local game store. It's very fun. Anywho, though, I think this is good. This is the list that I'm going to go with, and wish me luck here. This is Kevin from Gathering Magic and RogueDeckbuilder.com. Thanks for watching.